Yeah.
All right.
Ooh.
This is episode 766 of the Rio Grande Foundation's Tipping Point, New Mexico. I'm Paul Gessing, president of the Rio Grande Foundation, New Mexico's free market think tank. You can find out more about the foundation at riograndefoundation.org. I am very pleased to be joined by Sarah Hetemi. She is the state director here in New Mexico for Americans for Prosperity, a grassroots free market advocacy group. And welcome back to Tipping Point, New Mexico, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be back, and thank you for welcoming me back.
Yeah, no, well, we're excited to have you and excited to have Americans for Prosperity as a key partner in our efforts here in New Mexico. You guys are the grassroots advocates for a lot of the ideas that we are focused on. And you guys have been, AFP has been holding a series of events around the state, among other things, part of their Protect Prosperity and Defend Taxpayers project, some of which is already behind us, including work on the Big Beautiful Bill and a number of events. But before we get into the future of that and legislative session, et cetera, talk a little bit about that effort and some of the places you've been and some of the events and whatnot that you've been part of.
Absolutely. So, our Protect Prosperity and Defend Taxpayer initiative, one part of it is in person events across the state. So, we started out in Santa Fe, we worked our way up to Farmington, Artesia, Hobbs. We just finished here in Albuquerque, and we have a couple of more steps to do before we're done with it. But the effort started as a push for the tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And then it quickly turned into a celebration of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And really what we have been talking about as we've been celebrating it now is when we look at the One Big Beautiful Bill, if we were to take some of the big elements from the bill, like reining in spending, providing some tax relief, having more money in our pockets. I mean, imagine how awesome New Mexico would be without an income tax. Wouldn't that be something? Making sure we have a healthcare system that works for those who need it the most, not those who scam and abuse. Making sure we have more choice in our education. I mean, those are all things that if we applied them here in New Mexico, we would really be cooking with gas. We would be unstoppable. We would be unleashing our potential. But instead, unfortunately, we find ourselves with a constant leadership problem, right? Our leaders in Santa Fe are just simply not representing the best interests of New Mexicans, and it's happening time and time and time again, and we're held back by bad policies made by poor leaders who are not representing the interests of New Mexicans. And so with that, it has really also inspired us to really talk to New Mexicans and wake them up and remind them of what is going on in Santa Fe and what is going on in DC. And is that really reflective of your values, of your community values, what you want for your family and what you want for your state? Well, I don't think so, as we sit here with some of the most depressed and stressed people, as called out earlier this year by the Daily Caller, I believe.
So let's focus briefly on the Big Beautiful Bill. That was a huge push in Washington, D.C. And of course, subsequently, the government shut down, not directly related to that bill, but there were a lot of pro-growth policies included in the Big Beautiful Bill. Do you want to share one or two that specifically Americans for Prosperity supported and wanted to see come to fruition?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing it did was that it saved Americans a $4.6 trillion tax hike. I mean, this would have been the largest tax hike in America's history. And what's also interesting is that Democrats unanimously opposed the One Big Beautiful Bill. also meaning they unanimously supported a $4.6 trillion tax hike. For the average American family, that would have meant a $1,500 tax hike for them per year. For New Mexicans, on average, that would have meant an additional $1,800, which, I mean, Democrats unanimously supported. I think that's interesting because the quiet part has come out loud this year multiple times, along with the government shutdown, where SNAP benefits and various benefits were held as quote unquote leverage, and that part was said out loud, which was amazing. Even called out by CNN on some of our federal reps here. So it's been an interesting year in that sense. Otherwise, what the One Big Beautiful Bill did was it unleashed American energy again, right? We're putting America first again, and we're focusing on permitting reform. So I think that's been long overdue, and I think that is really exciting for New Mexico, as we're the second largest oil producer in the US, and we share some of these incredible natural resources with some of our successful neighbors like Texas. But when we look at Texas, look what Texas is doing. They're thriving. They got no income tax. They just provided their citizens with some property tax relief. They just passed educational savings accounts. Tennessee also did this year. And what's New Mexico doing?
Well, we've had two special sessions in the wake of the Big Beautiful Bill and kind of this whole debate about health care subsidies and SNAP. So just in the month of October, basically, October to November, we had two special sessions. But none of that discussed in the special session was going to unleash New Mexico's economy. It's just about taking on more welfare programs at the state level. So
absolutely. And there were some big misconceptions in the healthcare space, right? Like the One Big Beautiful Bill actually cleaned up some of our entitlement programs. It saved $930 billion in Medicaid fraud and abuse. So that's a big deal, and we should be happy about it. And it added some requirements, but they're very reasonable. I mean, if you're able-bodied, the requirement is that you work 20 hours a week, or if you can't find work, you can volunteer. And like I love to share, if you don't know where to do that, feel free to come to Americans for Prosperity New Mexico. We're happy to fill your 20 hours and you get your benefits. So I think this is something to celebrate, as it's really ensuring that those who need these programs are those who are getting those programs.
Yeah, I tend to agree, of course. And all right, so you've been around the state of New Mexico. You mentioned some of the things you've been talking about. Take us through a few of the highlights, and eventually we can talk about the other places you plan to go. But let's do a retrospective. You just had a big event in the city of Albuquerque with former gubernatorial candidate and weatherman Mark Ronchetti.
We did, and podcast host of No Doubt
Yes,
About It.
that's true. A competitor.
We also brought down our regional vice president, David Fromm, who is the podcast host of American Potential Podcast. And we had over 140 New Mexicans show up. It was a free event, and it was a great night where we really talked about the potential of our state and what we're missing out on, because our state is amazing. We sit here with some of the most beautiful, amazing weather. Over 310 days of sunshine in Albuquerque, over 300 days of sunshine no matter where you are in this state. We have all 4 seasons, but the elements are super forgiving. You're not really dealing with them at an intense level. And we have the beauty that's unmatched. Our neighbors truly can't compete. Texas might be open for business, but Texas doesn't have the beauty or the weather New Mexico has to offer. And we actually share the same natural resources. So it's up to us to harness those and make it the best we can be. But again, our focus on these events where we have a leadership problem. Leaders in Santa Fe and in DC are not representing the best values of New Mexicans. For instance, you brought up the two special sessions, and to take it all the way back to session earlier this year, we could see the kind of tone deafness that came out of our leaders. And this is at the governor level, state senate, and state house. It's all of it. We have a massive problem. I don't know any New Mexican who is happy with our healthcare system. I don't know any New Mexican who has a family doctor. Everyone has a nurse practitioner, and that's okay. We love nurse practitioners. It just seems to be an issue that no one has a family doctor. I don't know where to get one, which is interesting. We have no choice in education in this state at all. We don't even have open enrollment. We don't even make it possible for the mom on the South Valley to be able to send her kids to Rio Rancho or the Northeast Heights if she wants to. There's no option there. We have truly no educational choice. And we place last, yet we keep spending in education. So those are none of the solutions we see coming out of Santa Fe. Instead, we saw 20-some bills, I believe 23, trying to kill our energy production, trying to regulate and minimize our economic driver in oil and gas. We saw one of the largest tax hikes in New Mexico history being proposed through the Paid Family Medical Leave Act. And this is after we've survived COVID, after we have had 4 years of Bidenomics, a 40-year high inflation, unsustainable spending, rising costs in food, energy, and housing. And this is what we saw being introduced by our leaders in session this year. And then useless special sessions to follow. More spending. I believe spending under our current governor has gone up 70%.
Yeah, no. So AFP has a little more ability because you are a grassroots organization to engage in electoral politics than, say, at the Rio Grande Foundation. AFP wasn't really constituted as much when we had the current gubernatorial election, but we're going to have in 2026 a race for governor, of course, other statewide offices. The House will be up. The Senate will not be up. We do have one 30-day session, and we can talk a little bit about that. But what does AFP do in elections, and where do you see kind of things heading after the 30-day and into, we've got 3 Democrats and then at least 2 Republicans so far in the primary election. Do you engage in primaries, or do you wait for the general? How do you engage in the political process?
Yeah, so it's a bit case by case, but to take it a step back, why we even engage in political races, why we do this, right, is because we're here to pass good policies. And in New Mexico right now, it is really hard to pass good policies as we don't have a leadership that represents the interests of New Mexicans. And with that, it's hard to pass good policies. So we have a leadership problem, and that's part of why we engage in the political process, right? We want to get people in there who are going to represent the best interests of New Mexicans, who are going to unleash the potential of New Mexico and make it the true land of enchantment for all New Mexicans. So we do engage, and we plan to engage heavily. In 2024, we got involved in 8 legislative races and a congressional race in CD2. And we won 6 out of 8 of those legislative races. And we intend to ramp it up even more in 2026. But with that, we need you to be involved. That's really the key to it. And in 2024, we were able to do this with just a little over 100 people, going door to door, having real conversations, all the way from Las Cruces up to Albuquerque. Our goal this time is to double that, if not to triple it, right? We need you involved. We can't do it without you. And really it's your voice that matters the most, because we take your voice and we amplify it.
Yeah, I neglected to mention we, of course, do have congressional races coming up as well. All three New Mexico congressional seats are up for reelection, and we have a U.S. Senate race as well. Now, I know that there are candidates, including Republicans, running against each other in primaries against the incumbent Democrat in a few of the congressional races, but I don't, to my knowledge, know of a opponent for Ben Ray Lujan at this point. So I don't know that every single race is going to have a solid competitor in it, but there are a lot of different races on
And
the political calendar.
We can't get involved in every race. What we try to do is we try to look at what districts are affected the most and where can we come in and make a difference. Where is there swing? Where are there swing voters? Where are people truly unhappy with their representation? And where can we come in to make a difference? So we're not looking to change the whole outcome of something. We're coming in to move the needle a few points, right? So that's how we look at and assess the difference, and the same thing. And I guess our statewide Protect Prosperity and Defend Taxpayer initiative, one portion of that was in-person events. Another portion of it has been an accountability and thank you mail and digital campaign going across 12 districts in the state, thanking some elected officials for doing a great job and upholding the interests of New Mexicans, and others really trying to educate their constituents on how their representative voted and make them aware of perhaps that's not in what you would prefer. Maybe you wouldn't prefer one of the largest tax hikes in New Mexico history.
Yeah, talk about the importance of that, because to an extent, the legislature is really the focus of attention, mostly during the 30 and 60 days, those sessions. We just had those two specials, as you mentioned, or we discussed, and those are really very difficult for the public to get engaged in any significant way. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot you and I could talk about in terms of transparency and open government and the way those special sessions do not work. But this is a 30-day legislative session coming up. And before we get into any of those elections that we've just talked about, I know Americans for Prosperity will be focused on making sure that things go as well as humanly possible, given the political players that are there at play. So what are some of the issues that you're focused on during this upcoming 30-day session, to the extent that we know it is a budget session? So I bet you're going to be doing something on the budget. But what are you looking at that's coming down the pipe?
Well, I think, unfortunately, a lot of the session will be blocking more bad spending. I mean, we can be hopeful and be dreamers that that's not coming our way. But like I said, under this governor, we've seen about a 70% increase in spending. And although over 68% of New Mexicans approve and support oil and gas production in our state, and it pays for over 50% of our budget, that hasn't been reflective in this last session or in the last two special sessions. So kind of preparing for the worst, expecting the worst, right? And then always hoping for the best, looking for, is there any place where we can work, where there should be bipartisan support for education freedom, right? But I highly doubt that that's going to be the focus this session. Or perhaps I believe every New Mexican wants a solution to our healthcare problem, or every New Mexican would love a tax break during this awful economy. But I bet you those are not solutions that are coming up. So
Well,
more.
hold on. Let me. I'm going to push back slightly on that. Not on the tax cuts thing. Unfortunately, I agree with you 100% that this governor and this legislature will not do anything about taxes. But there has been talk, and the governor even, I won't say pledged, but she said that she was wanting to do something on the maybe not medical malpractice, but at least some of these compacts that are up for discussion that have been. But in advance of the first special session, the governor said, essentially, there's too many lawyers in the legislature for us to get anything real done on these issues. Is medical malpractice and compacts, how critical of an element of healthcare reform would you say they are, and what other aspects of healthcare reform would do you think we need to be looking at here in New Mexico?
I mean, I think that is one of the first here, right? Going back to the point of, and I'm not exaggerating. I truly haven't met anyone in New Mexico with a family doctor yet. I certainly have asked. Now I've only been in the state for a year and a half, but I think I'm pretty good at asking around. So I think that's the first thing to tackle, if anything. And then there's many ways we can tackle healthcare and look at it, but health savings accounts I think is a really really good way to go. Um, Expanding direct primary care. I think we can do a lot on expanding our telehealth here. Although I do hear some concerns that could discourage doctors, but I don't know that that's true when you look at the research. I think it simply gives you more choice, and I think a lot of those concerns are the same as you see in the education empowerment space. Folks tend to be really concerned that if we give educational choice a chance, well, then public schools don't do better. And actually, research shows the opposite, that when educational choice comes into play, public schools tend to do better because they have some competition and they seem to shape up a bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues in healthcare, including taxation, and they've actually done work to temporarily eliminate the gross receipts tax on healthcare providers. But obviously, it would be great. It would have been something that should have been permanently
Permanent.
done, but that has not been the priority in Santa Fe. So it's going to be a very action-packed 30-day session. Are you hearing that paid family leave will be brought up again as well? We've fought that together numerous sessions now here in this state. But what do you think the chances are that that'll be on the agenda?
Well, I would not be surprised if it came up, right? Because we have now defeated it 3 times in a row. Not just us, of course, with your help and with lots of other groups, with the Restaurant Association, lots of businesses joined up and fought this together. And we defeated it 3 times, and it did not seem to discourage it from coming up again, which is interesting, right? So I bet you we will see it again.
Any other issues? I know AFP doesn't work on every single issue. I know roads and road funding will be a topic of concern. The Democrats recently in the Santa Fe New Mexican were discussing possibly raising the gas tax. I don't know if they've actually got the guts, so to speak, to do that or to put that forth, but we do need to do some work on our roads here in the state of New Mexico.
See, yet another harmful policy suggestion, yet another burden on New Mexicans. So I hope that our governor will consider some aspects to healthcare, potentially education. Look at the real solutions, right? Because so far, what I have heard is all about universal childcare, which we seem to actually be doing pretty okay in the state. That we seem to have that part covered. So maybe we should look at where we're actually struggling. Perhaps public safety seems to be a big concern for people.
Yeah, you mentioned health savings accounts before. Can you briefly explain to folks how a health savings account works? And you know, it's related to after this issue at the federal level with the Obamacare subsidies that were expiring. Trump did not extend those, but that was not his job. That was done during the Biden administration, and it was expiring. The subsidies were. Trump has come back with a proposal. As far as I can tell, it resembles a lot of what we want to see from health savings accounts. But can you talk a little bit about the health savings accounts and how they would potentially improve cost management in healthcare?
Yeah, so I think they're kind of the greatest thing because this account belongs to you. So even if you switch employers, it's not like it goes away or you can't use it anymore. This is yours. So you can take it with you. It goes with you wherever you are, kind of like your bank account, right? And then these are pre-tax dollars. So that's the cool thing. They're not taxed. You're saving a ton and you can use it for a lot more than one would think. So beyond the traditional healthcare costs that we associate. So you could use it for various, let's say you go to your pharmacy, you could use it for various skincare products, or whatever kind of relates to health, and you can tie it back to health. So you have a lot more freedom with it, and you can take it with you, and it's yours, and it's not taxed. So I think it's a massive step in healthcare.
And you would still have a more traditional insurance policy to actually insure against a serious health issue, cancer, you get hit by a bus, whatever. It kind of, in my estimation, restores your healthcare dollars to the way they were originally intended to work.
Yeah. Your healthcare dollars go a lot further.
Now, AFP does work nationally as well as here in New Mexico. And of course, that was part of your effort on the Big Beautiful Bill, both you here locally as well as the AFP infrastructure nationally. Is that something that, it's very early. Trump is talking about this. It's going to be a huge push in Congress if that were to actually, this kind of revision of American healthcare were to be done. Do you, is this something that AFP would likely engage with if it does move on to actual legislation and moving it through Congress? Or what is your next step in Washington? What is AFP working on these days as we move forward in Washington?
Yeah, I do think so. I think it's hard to say before things develop, as in DC, things can change literally overnight on what's in the bill and what the deal is. So that depends, and we have to see what comes out. But in theory, yes. And then what we've been really focused on, and our new initiative is Prosperity as Possible, which is all focused on permitting.
Prosperity as possible?
Prosperity is possible.
Okay.
Sorry, my little accent comes out every now and then.
All right.
And it's all about permitting reform. It's all about unleashing American energy and focusing inwards again.
So specifically on energy permits, because there are obviously other areas of our economy that have permitting and permitting issues, but you're specifically talking about within the energy sphere.
Yep, all energy.
Okay.
And it's a national tour. So they're making their way through the states. Hopefully we will have a stop here in New Mexico, which I assume, since we're the second largest oil producer. But I think that's a great initiative to focus on, especially coming up in 2026. I think it's been long time since we have really focused on America First energy. And being that we produce it the best, the cleanest, we have some of the best regulations in the world, we will also bring down emissions. This is the safest way to have energy production. So
now, Trump has been, there are many ways in which I think he deviates, it's safe to say, from free market policies that you and I may agree on 99% of the time. But energy is definitely a strong suit for the President of the United States. Has he not already, in his either first or now second administration, taken on energy permitting, especially in the oil and gas industry? Or are there specific issues or projects that you think need to be
No,
addressed
no,
or?
he has. We're just and through the one big beautiful bill he has, we're just taking that opportunity to really highlight what that looks like on real life sites throughout America. Right, we're making a statewide tour, so we're showing people what that actually looks like on the ground from state to state. Whether that's an oil and gas field, whether that's a mining field, whether that's coal. So we're doing it all.
Yeah, well, and it's one of the ways in which you've seen real cuts in the price of gasoline at the pump, and that's good, of course, for Americans, motorists, the economy. Uh, if they go too low, it could have a bit of a negative implication for the state of New Mexico's finances, but they're not returning the money to us anyway. So it really doesn't, in my estimation, matter very much when the government just holds on to all the money. So I am in the camp of yes, permitting reform, yes to expanding the supply of oil and gas, etc. That's huge. So I'm going to throw you one out of left field because I know that you have been involved in Alaska politics in the past. There is an effort again, Anwar and some of those supplies of energy that are contained on the northern coast of Alaska. It looks like Trump is going to get involved in pushing that again. It always seems like he and others who have tried, they ultimately fail because the process takes so long that the environmentalists are able to run out the clock. Uh, what's your take on, based on your knowledge of Alaska and this? And I know Alaskans are super engaged; they want this to happen, but they don't control Washington. They have 2 U.S. senators and 1 member of Congress, so they're not in control. But where do you see that whole debate going? Do you think Trump will succeed finally in unlocking some of those energy supplies up there on the north coast of Alaska?
Yeah, so I think Alaska is so lucky to have gotten Congressman Nick Begin. He has been a force in energy and a force in representing Alaskans and having a seat at the table, which is a big deal for Alaska since we only have one congressman. But he's been a leader in this space, and he was working hard to make sure that these provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill on energy took, and that was a big deal to Alaska. So I'm hopeful for Alaska, but you never know. Trump once did great things for Alaska, and then Biden came right in. So not saying that will happen again, but there is a back and forth here. So I hope the One Big Beautiful Bill has solved some of those problems for the long term.
And even Governor Lujan Grisham came out and said that she supported liquefied natural gas exports to Japan. Now, I know permitting in the oil and gas and energy industries is a broad area. There's permits for actual drilling. There's permits for where you can drill, offshore, etc. And I know that Trump is working on that as well. But pipelines and infrastructure are a big issue as well. But it is a welcome development. I think you'd agree that the governor's on board with this in some way, shape, or form. Do you think anything positive will happen in terms of New Mexico being kind of able to get into this global business of liquefied natural gas exports? Do you see any synergy there between Trump and MLG, perhaps?
It's an interesting topic, and I think it's a good idea, but it all depends on how it's presented out on the topic of pipelines. It's been something that Alaska has been discussing for decades now. So, I'm not sure how long it's been discussed here. Is it a new topic from MLG?
Um, she hasn't mentioned it before. It's the first time I've seen her in 7 years say something positive about any traditional energy sources, and I don't know
So,
if she'll do anything substantive. I guess is my ultimate
Now,
question.
I think it's a really exciting topic. I guess just going back to Alaska, the fact that it's been discussed for decades, I think it's possible, but there has to be a real strategy here and a real plan to implement it. And I've seen that be a problem time and time again in Alaska, um, even through Republican governors. So I'm not sure. It sounds like a nice idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I agree. It's hard to say, and I think because we're looking at exporting a lot of this to not Alaska,
Japan.
Japan, that would ideally be done from the west coast of the United States. But you got a few problems there called Washington State, Oregon, and California that are not big fans of traditional energy sources. Those are very certainly on energy. They're even bluer than New Mexico. New Mexico politicians at least know where the money comes from. I don't think Gavin Newsom gives a what
Don't you
about.
think they should watch Landman?
I do, yes, I do think, and that's the new season's out, so I have to check out that particular show as well. But yeah, I'm not sure even Landman would sway Gavin, especially given that he's going to be running for president on the Democratic side of things. But yeah, it's just interesting to see, and I kind of wish Trump would stop antagonizing I believe she's the president of Mexico, because I think Mexico might be the best option for us to get some of those energy resources from New Mexico out to the West Coast. But we shall see. Well, we don't have much time left. Anything you want to share, especially, I guess, how people can get involved with Americans for Prosperity and their work?
Yeah, please find us on social media. We're Americans for Prosperity New Mexico on Facebook, Instagram, X. You can also go to our website, americansforprosperity.org, and then just pick New Mexico in the drop down menu and get directly in contact with us and our state team here. We just launched our state website and our new logo, Roadmap to Enchantment. So yeah, we would love for you to get involved, and we're really excited for 2026.
And you have people go to door and do phone banking. What are the other? Are there other things I'm missing, or are those the two primary? I know you have a lot of events, as you mentioned.
Yeah, no, those are I guess the main ways to take an action, but we do a lot. For instance, just a month ago, while we were in the face of the government shutdown, we were trying to hold our congressman, Gabe Vasquez, accountable, along with our senators, for having voted for the government shutdown and not for voting to keep entitlement programs going for New Mexicans and Americans, and for government employees to get paid. So we did try to do that as the most recent effort. We bring people down to session, down to the Capitol, to amplify their voices and connect with their elected officials on issues that matter most to them. Last year, we were able to bring down close to 30 people to fill a committee room to oppose the paid family medical leave, which was AKA the largest tax hike in New Mexico history. And then we also just have a good time. Sometimes we just gather to talk about the issues that are going on in the community, to celebrate wins. So yeah, there's lots to get involved in.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate not only your coming on, but all the work you and AFP do to improve New Mexico. So thank you for listening to this week's episode. Find all episodes at tippingpointsnm.com or at the Rio Grande Foundation's YouTube channel. Subscribe to the show at Apple, Stitcher, or tell Google Home to play Tipping Point New Mexico. Thanks to Path 3 Marketing for producing this show.
Thank you for